Hi, my name is Sarah Sunny, and I'm the CEO of our company at RenTech. And my two fellow partners are.
Hi, I'm Natalie Tebow. I'm the COO.
Hi, I'm Smith Stein, and I am the CFO.
And we are an ASB group from Wakeland High School in Frisco, Texas. I'd just like to preface this presentation by saying a great thank you to all the judges who have taken time out of their days on such short notice to judge these virtual presentations. It means a lot to us that although we can't be in person, we have the possibility to present to you virtually. Next, I'll get started with an executive summary for our product, the NephroPen. Our journey with the NephroPen started a long time ago and began, as for me, with my very own grandmother who has diabetes-induced kidney disease. And constantly seeing her go to hospitals for treatment plans that were both cost and time ineffective, I quickly realized that we had to create a solution, and that's where we come in. The NephroPen is a new and innovative product brought to consumers by our company, RenTech, where we specialize in renal technology. And this process is as simple as 1, 2, 3. First, there is a simple non-invasive procedure that removes stem cells from the patient's body, and then those cells are then transported and shipped to our facilities and our laboratory facilities in San Antonio, Texas. And over the course of 3 weeks, they undergo the development stages to become pluripotent stem cells. At the same time, in our factory in Nagoya, Japan, we create the pen itself, which is a syringe-like medical-grade stainless steel pen. And finally, the third process, which is combining the cells to the pen and shipping them to hospitals where clients are, where physicians can undergo and proceed to perform one more procedure in which they inject the pen into the general vicinity of the kidneys for the patient. And that causes instantaneous cellular regrowth. So from drawing diagrams out on a whiteboard to our first meeting to see if this could really become true, the NephroPen is really the best thing to come from medical technology to date, and we really hope that patients can write their future with us. Next, I'll hand it over to Natalie, who will discuss some key market problems.
Thank you. So the first problem we have is kidney dialysis, and kidney dialysis is a process that's going to be cleansing the blood of toxins, fluids, and extra waste with the use of a machine. And this process is going to be done 4 times a week for up to 3 hours at a time. So it's very time consuming. That's a big inconvenience you're going to see with it. You're also going to see those inconveniences of the symptoms it can bring you, as well as that risk of infection from frequent use of needles and catheters to insert into the bloodstream. Our second problem is a kidney transplant, and a kidney transplant is a process that's going to aim to function in place of the damaged kidney. So this will be done by the surgical implantation of a donor kidney into the lower abdomen, and it will connect to the renal vein and artery and then proceed to function in place of the organ. The big inconveniences you're going to see with this one are one, cost, looking at a minimum payment of $260,000, not including prescription drugs, as well as those donor matching tests, as well as the risk of rejection. So with any transplant surgery you do have, there is that risk of rejection that your body is going to recognize the foreign tissue and want to fight it off. And our third problem is the issue that is regarding the nationwide organ donor shortage that we have going on right now. And this has been an issue for a while, but it really became prevalent whenever UNO saw its 10th consecutive record-breaking year of decreased donors. So in 2020, we saw almost 14,000 donors lost. This is a big issue considering the fact that kidneys are the most in-demand organ, and to see so many people die because they have to be waiting on the transplant list is just such a dire problem that we feel we need to fix here at RenTech. So now I'm going to let Sarah talk to you about our customer segments.
So transitioning to some demographics, we do want to make it very clear that our product is here to support patients that have renal diseases and kidney diseases. And for that, our primary market are patients that have chronic kidney disease that are aged 65 years and older. And primarily because 1 in 7 people in the United States have CKD or chronic kidney disease, which is accounting for roughly 15% of the US population, we find that this is extremely important for these patients. Furthermore, looking at the age demographic listed of the 65 plus years, these patients tend to have underlying conditions, and when looking at their age into account when it comes to procedures for transplants, post-operative complications tend to arise, and that will not occur with our non-invasive procedures that are required for the NephroPen. And overall, it's better quality of life, and it's time and cost effective for these patients. And moving on to our secondary market, we have patients that have diabetes-induced kidney disease. And much like my very own grandmother who dealt with these same issues, it's very clear that this product is perfect for these patients. As 1 in 3 people in the United States with diabetes have this disease, that is accounting for the 34.2 million people that have diabetes, which is roughly 4 million people that have diabetes-induced kidney disease, also further elaborating why it's so important for these patients. And for reference, we'll be taking 3% of our primary market and 1% of our secondary market. And finally, quickly discussing nephrologists. We do want to make it very clear that healthcare and providers and physicians are at utmost importance here at RenTech, and we really do honor their work, primarily just because they work so hard to provide for patients just like we are. And for this, we want to make it clear that we're not taking away from any of their work. Rather, we're providing with another option for patients and for these physicians to provide for. And as you'll later hear, sales representatives here at RenTech are really helpful to marketing towards physicians, who will then in turn promote our product and our treatment plan to patients without just listing 2 options, but also a third, which is the NephroPen treatment. So next, I'll hand it over to Samantha Stein.
Right, so some of the big questions is unique value proposition. What makes us different? What makes us unique? Why would somebody choose us? And I could talk about our product, but frankly, I want to discuss more as us as a company and what we strive to do with the opportunities that we have created. So with this new groundbreaking plan, we hope to inspire engineers, doctors, and scientists alike to really simplify their approach towards diseases and understand that the body has its own rejuvenating component and see how far that can scientifically go. We hope that with our growing outreach and revenue, we can place pressure upon bigger medical institutions to change and for some to stop taking advantage of people who simply want to live. Yes, we are unique as a company now, but we hope that we become the bare minimum for next-gen medical institutions to put the patient before the product, before the price, and before the profit. We understand here at RenTech that nobody should choose between paying their medical bills now or not being able to survive later because they're drowning in debt. Now I'm going to hand it over to Natalie to discuss our solutions.
Thank you. So as Sarah briefly stated earlier, we want our product to be seen as that third option. So say you're working with a nephrologist and they're telling you that your options are a kidney transplant, a dialysis treatment, or this new and innovative process called the NephroPen procedure. They're going to tell you that with this procedure, it's going to be less costly than that of a transplant. You're going to have the lessened risk of rejection that you would see with the transplant, considering that your body is not going to want to fight off its own cells. It will be less time consuming than that of dialysis, and you'll also see those lessened symptoms, so less muscle cramps, fatigue, as well as nausea, and just less time consuming than that of dialysis. And we're also going to be taking away people from the transplant and dialysis audiences, which is really going to help put a stop to that donor shortage that I mentioned earlier. And this is because less people overall will be on the transplant list, so there will be less donors needed. And now I'm going to talk about our channels of advertising. So the first one that I really want to hit on is Google, and Google is very important to us, seeing as though, going back to that scenario I mentioned, if your doctor is going to give you these options, the first thing that you're going to do is go home and research. And we want you to research. We want you to research insightful, accurate, and helpful information. So we're going to do this by advertising through those Google search hits and clicks and making sure that our product comes to the top whenever anything kidney disease related is searched. We will also be using journals as well as brochures, which are going to be geared towards medical personnel and our targeted audiences. And our second big form of advertising, which is something that Sarah mentioned earlier, is those personal sales representatives. So these sales reps are really important to us because, seeing as though we are a personal company, we feel that that communication between the sales representatives and the nephrologists and healthcare workers is just so crucial. And further marketing and advertising our product, and this is what's really going to help spread the NephroPen's reach. So now moving into our channels of distribution, the NephroPen will first be made in Nagoya, Japan, and then from there be moved into the United States through boat. And once the pen has safely arrived in the United States, it will then be delivered to to hospitals by our sales representatives. And this is kind of where that second portion of distribution begins, because this is where the first procedure of the stem cell retrieval will occur. And with this procedure, it will be very non-invasive. It will be done by doctors. And once this is done, the pen will then be shipped back to our headquarters in San Antonio. And this is where those blood and skin stem cells, which already have the healing qualities, will be turned into iPS stem cells, also known as induced pluripotent stem cells. And this processing is really what's going to allow for that opportunity of complete kidney tissue curation, So once those cells are fully developed, then they will be shipped back to hospitals. And this is where the actual NephroPen procedure will be taking place. Now I'm going to let Sam talk to you about our revenue streams.
Right, so as CFO, I want to really transition into a discussion regarding our finances. So our year one revenue is $550 million. I'm just going to break that down just a little bit more. We have a selling price per unit of $2,500 and about an upkeep of $400 in raw materials, which leaves us with a profit per unit of $2,100. Now we plan to sell almost 462,000 units. Now, looking back into the customer segments, it's about 3% of our primary and 1% of our secondary, totaling to about 4%. We're very conservative within the first year, as we know that we're a startup medical company and trust takes time. Loyalty is one of the pillars of our foundation. It's why we allocate so much of our resources towards it. Now, accounting all the expenses I'm going to mention is about $305 million in taxes. We have $550 million in net income. Now I'm going to move on to advertisement. I encourage you in the cost structure to pause to read all of the numbers, but I'm just going to mainly summarize everything on the screen that you see. About $5 million in Google search. As we said, we spend a lot of our money on advertisement towards Google search, and in the future, hopefully billboards in partnerships with bigger medical institutions. Now, as for distribution, we have our factory right in Nagoya, Japan, our head lab facility in San Antonio, which includes rent and also renovations. Now we also have RFID tracking. We spend about $9 million. This is very, very important to us. Each product has its own tracker, and we're able to scan it during different checkpoints in registry and load up a registry, my apologies, and see the patient and the important history that we need to know, any medical history. And we'll also make sure that they maintain a colder temperature, as the cells need to maintain a colder temperature, as I previously mentioned. Now I'm going to transition into some payroll. Again, these are our projected year one payroll expenses and what we plan to hire. Now, our sales representatives are very important. So I want to mention the 7th year, we plan to go international. We hope to have about 800 sales representatives in the company to set footholds in global markets. Now, lastly, I just want to mention some extra expenses. In fact, I actually want to mention one extra expense is PMA and FDA approval. This is very, very important to us. We need PMA and FDA approval to be able to sell on an open market. Without it, we are not able to bring RenTech to the open market. And then lastly, just going to summarize with some key metrics. Again, I know that there is a lot of numbers on the screen, but again, pause if you need to read anything else. Our year one expenses total to about $69 million. We're able to break even within the first year. We have a customer acquisition cost of $24. And lastly, our total startup costs encompass about $15 million. Now I'm going to hand it over to Natalie, and she's going to discuss our competitive advantage.
Thank you, Sam. So our company is going to be gaining that competitive advantage over companies such as Fresenius Medical Care, as well as just leading donor companies, as well as transplant companies. And this is because of our use of stem cells. So by using these stem cells, we're able to offer that opportunity of complete curation of kidney disease, like I earlier mentioned, rather than just an option to hold off its effects. We also want to highlight that we are a personal company. We want you to know that we're here to help you help yourself, essentially, because without you, we could not do any of this. We want you to know that, like Sam mentioned, the body just really can heal itself, and we want to highlight that and help you along the way with every step. So now I'm going to let Sarah close us off.
So in conclusion, we have a request for financing of a $15 million capital investment for a 10% equity stake in our company, RenTech, the NephroPen. For reference, each of the founders, Sarah Sunny, the CEO, Natalie Tavoe, the COO, and Samantha Stein, the CFO, all have a 30% equity stake in our company, so giving the investor 10%. And just to justify some of the numbers on the next slide, our return on investment is a 266.72%. Our investment gain is roughly $40 million in just 1 year alone. So investors will get their money back and will gain a lot of profit off of this as well. But we do want to stress that we're not a company only focused on money and profit, but we really want our investors to be just as interested in helping clients just as we are, because we really want people to write their future with us here at RenTech. Thank you again so much for watching our presentations today. And with that, if you have any questions, feel free to contact us at rentech@gmail.com for any questions that you might have.